Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy M.K.S here, back in another video. Hope you're doing well wherever you are. And I suppose this is part of Football Fridays or Football Fun Fridays. I hope people who love football really enjoy this. And as ever, I welcome any support from my channel. And I'd love to read your comments. And if you want to make any reaction videos or anything else, I'd love to hear from you or listen to you or read from you or whatever. Yeah, especially football fans. Obviously, these videos are mainly directed to that target market, but if anyone is kind enough to support my channel, I always appreciate that either way, and I'd love to get more people into football. But anyway, I thought I would do a reaction video as the draw has recently been made for the Champions League. I thought I'd do a reaction video. I was thinking of Champions League, but also I could talk about Europe generally, like the Conference League, Europa League, and Europa League as well. Obviously, there are 3 European competitions for those who follow football. But yeah, so last season, Italian teams got to the final, but unfortunately, all 3 finals, but unfortunately lost all 3 somehow. I don't know how they managed to lose all 3 of them by close margins as well. So I was thinking, what if Italian teams got a bit of investment, a bit of extra investment, possibly a couple of good signings, and that kind of thing? Could Italian teams go on and actually win 1, 2, or even all 3 European competition? I think that'd be pretty amazing, and especially if I say we as a fan, did so a few seasons in a row, so we could catch up with the EPL, English Premier League, and even La Liga, the Spanish league. I'd love for us to become number 1 league somehow. So I hope somehow the world can carry on long enough for us to become the number 1 league in terms of European or international victories overall, to become the most successful league in Europe. And I probably, in that regard, would probably be the most successful in the world, really, because European teams have the most funds and things like that. So I know people might say it's a first world thing, but for me, football, I take it quite serious in a way, although I know it is for fun as well. So probably I take it a bit too serious sometimes, or very much too serious. But I never get violent or anything like that. And like me, I can't stand violence unless it's in self-defense. So I'd never be like into hooliganism or beating someone up just because one of my team's lost. Or not that I'd get very far anyway. Especially I haven't been to the gym for a while. But anyway, I'm going way off track, sorry. But yeah, I believe in peace and love and all that kind of stuff. So and I love for football to be used for good, football for good, and all that kind of thing, bring people together, as I've talked before about. And I love, on that note, some things I dislike about Italian football are the prejudice, the racism, extreme racism, and violence as well. Things like those are some of the things I disagree with, and I think it'd be good for Italians to see that with more migration. Although I know it does bring its challenges, with more migration, I think it should be done legally. There are more opportunities because you've got more people to choose from, especially if those who come in as migrants. So for my policy for Italian immigration, in my opinion, it would be, obviously, I don't want to be a dictator, but I don't want to be a dictator, as I've mentioned before. I'm being a libertarian, but I would advocate for the policy of anyone who comes in legally. I think priority should be given to those who with skill or talent for football, as well as those from the diaspora and those from former colonies of Italy, like former members of the empire. And I think it'd be also talking about Italian football team from the national team's point of view. I think it'd be cool. I know I do go off from one point to another, but please forgive me for that one. But I think it would be cool if they had. If they could utilise those of Italian descent around the world, so that I think there is a rule, and again, I probably mentioned this once or twice in a while back, but probably not everyone saw that video, but there is a rule, I think. I'm not 100% sure about how it works, but I think once you play for one country at senior level, not at youth level obviously, but at senior level, you're stuck with that country. But I'm not sure if it works for friendlies, but I think it would be cool if Italy could use 1 or 2 of those players who are fringe players who like qualified, play for Brazil or Argentina or America even, or other nations that might be good players, especially I suppose if they're good players, and then they would be locked in to play for Italy, so they wouldn't be able to play for Brazil or Argentina in the future. So that hopefully that'll benefit anything within the rules that could benefit Italian football and of course Celtic as well. Normally when I mention one, I mention the other. The title I couldn't fit both in because the title was too long. But I would love for Italian teams, if I'm talking about my dreams for Italian football teams generally, to have as much investment as possible. But I think that's kind of a vanity sort of thing, unless it means Italian teams can win, like Chelsea have done in the past, Man City have done more recently, and Newcastle could probably do in the future with the investment they've got and how they're doing a lot better than they were before. but for me, the priority for Italian teams is to win it in Europe. So, which Newcastle looks like they might do. Unfortunately for me, because sorry for Newcastle fans, but I'm a big Italian football fan. So, any teams outside of Italy doing well is not good for me personally. But yeah, so I was thinking with a few more signings, could Italian teams win some of those European competitions? Hopefully, as we came so close, more recently, hopefully we can win more with those with that investment. But the idea of having investors and sponsors, in my opinion, is to win those trophies. I hope that Italian teams can work with FIFA and UEFA to talk about, like, if they do football for good and improve the brand of football and the image of football around the world, and talk about how football can be used as a bridge to build peace and stuff like that. Maybe treat migrants better as well and things like that. As well as the fact that some of those migrants could play for Italy, and hopefully some of them would benefit the team, just like they've done for France, and just like diversity has benefited Brazil in the past. And France, not too long ago, in fact, quite recently, they've been to 2 finals, and they've won at 2 finals and been to another final with a very diverse team. So maybe that's something that Italy could learn from. I know they did narrowly miss out in the last final, but so diversity probably does have its advantages as well. So, but also if they treat migrants better, maybe there could be some sort of rule where FIFA, UEFA, and whatnot work with, and other such football bodies work with refugee agencies, migrant and refugee agencies, and rights groups, Amnesty and UNHCR, whatever it's called. To be honest, I don't know the full name of it. To allow more investment and sponsorship into Italian football. I'd love for all possible investors around the world to invest in individual Italian teams, especially in Serie A, maybe even in Serie B or Serie G, but especially in Serie A, which have more chance of winning in Europe, which is why I want them to do so, to be honest, or even in the World Club Cup internationally, which I'd love for Italian teams to do well at. And lost my train of thought, sorry. But yeah, so in return for giving migrants more rights, hopefully they'll get that. There's more increased investments into individual teams, and I'd also love for companies and all possible investment vehicles or investors, whether that's individual investors, private equity investors, whatever, hedge funds, private equity funds, I think I might mention, sovereign wealth funds, entire nations basically investing, banks, and just businesses generally, or anyone who invests, basically any individual or group that invests, to any investment fund, like ISAs or whatever. I'd love to for those investment funds to invest, to make Italian football attractive to investors around the world. So as many invest in Italian individual teams, but also in the league as well. So Serie A could have more money, which could be used for prize money. So for instance, even the bottom team could get a lot of money, even if they get demoted. Like the bottom 3 teams maybe get demoted, but they still get a fair amount of money. And the teams coming up to Serie A would get money, but also would get a lot of money, hopefully. But also, so all Italian teams hopefully would get more money, especially Serie A teams, and also as much as possible. And they could offer like billions for winning the league. So if the bottom team even got like hundreds of millions, the top team would get billions, which would help us to have the money, even more money than the EPL, so that we could win things. Hopefully in Europe, the idea is obviously to invest that money to win things. Another thing I've just thought about is I think it'd be interesting if, and this is not a completely new idea, but it's an idea I came up with maybe a month or so ago. But I may have kind of briefly mentioned it, but I would love to see how managers like Pep Guardiola, and Ange Postecoglou, who managed in Celtic, funny enough, would do in Serie A, which is very defensive. Could they bring in that attacking football, which would make Italian football more attractive to potential investors? More attractive to fans, which would make it more attractive to investors. So I suppose the more people who buy the shirts, kits generally, I nearly combined those 2 words and said the wrong word then, but thankfully just managed to save myself from that. But yeah, and potential viewers, but although it would probably give some people a laugh. But yeah, for those who buy the kits, I want to say that carefully, my speech problems, but and also maybe in watching the games and things like that, subscribing to the Serie A channel as well as the Celtic channel as well. On the side note, hopefully that would mean that there is more investment, it becomes more attractive to investors, sponsors, and whatnot to put more money in, and it would mean that the clubs can get more investment, which hopefully will bring in the best possible managers, coaches, coaching staff, players, and whatnot, physios, scouts. Hopefully, I think that's really important as well, getting good scouts to bring in the best possible players who can benefit the teams. And hopefully, again, with a couple of good signings, 2 or 3 good signings or whatnot, Italian teams can actually win in Europe. I'd love to see them win all 3 trophies, and in the future maybe even get not just 1 but 2 finalists in a competition like so. Conference League could maybe feature 2 Italian teams, or the Europa League could feature 2 Italian teams, or even the Champions League. That would be pretty amazing. I know other nations have done that, and even Italy's done that in the past with AC Milan and Juventus and whatnot. So I hope they'll get that investment back. On the subject of Juventus, I know this video dragged on a bit. I do have a lot to talk about, but I'll try and wrap it up probably soon. But on the subject of Juventus, I hope they will learn from their lessons about avoiding match fixing, maybe working with FIFA and UEFA to make sure they operate within the rules of the game, and also avoiding recent mistakes they've made with financial irregularities and things like that. So they would operate within the rules of football and the general laws, both in Italy and internationally. And hopefully Italian football, Italian politicians and the government, councillors, and all those in Italy and those involved in football will hopefully make it easier for teams to attract investment, and not to and to make it easier, so there's less rules and less laws, but as long as they do so within the international laws and within FIFA's laws and things like that. When it comes to Celtic, I can't really imagine Celtic winning. I'd be shocked if Celtic even pick up like 3 points for one game. I mean, basically get a win in Europe. But for me, the main priority is domestic games. Unfortunately, we've already been out of one cup. I was saying we in speech, but we've already been out of one cup, and so we won't win the treble as I dreamed, which is a bit annoying. But hopefully on Sunday, and if I get around to it, hopefully I'll do a match preview on Saturday. But hopefully on Sunday we can kick the Rangers' butts, shall we say, to put it politely, and that will hopefully bring in confidence. And if we can win the league, that'd be great. Another cup trophy. I was going to say another domestic trophy would be amazing. Like to win a double basically would be amazing. And anything in Europe, I think, is a bonus, especially in the first season. I think in the second season, maybe we can look to build on that. If we get more money for getting into Europe, we can then buy even better players, hopefully, or buy a lot better players, and hopefully win in Europe. Some people are saying that the board, or a lot of people are saying the board, are skimping on costs, and I suppose there's a rift between the fans in Celtic. So like a lot of saying that people shouldn't moan, or they should support the team in a certain way. But I think fans should support the team how we like. And if we think there's things that are not being done well in the club, or the investments aren't being made, I think that we should look at ways that we can voice our concerns. I think the fans should be able to connect with the club, and everyone involved in the club should be able to connect together, similar with the town teams. And just like with the town teams, I would love for Celtic to get as much investment and money, basically sponsorship and things like that, through sponsorships and things like that. But I could go on all day about that, but obviously I don't want the video to be too long. I know it's already gone a bit longer, 3 or 4 minutes longer than planned. But yeah, so I think with the money we got from Jota and any other money involved in the club, I think the club should go out and spend a lot of money. Like that money could be spent like on a couple of good strikers, for at least in Scottish levels. It's quite a lot of money, but at least like 12 million each on each striker. So we get a couple of really good strikers. So if we get any injuries that we've had recently, we'd have people to replace them, and we can have people to bring off the bench. Also a playmaker, I think, would be really good. But I'd love to hear what Celtic fans as well as Serie A fans think of signings. Like what signings you think your club should make, or even football fans generally, like what signings you think your club should make, even football fans or whatnot. And I wish you peace and love. I'm out.